Hello, Miami. You're watching 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching 305 Sports Now. Once again, I am your host, Will. And I just want to talk a little bit about the Miami Hurricanes schedule. I know we've been talking about it as far as Canes fandom goes, and a lot of the content creators out there have also been giving their 2 cents on it. I just want to talk a little bit about it as far as what I think is gonna happen. I will not give you a prediction. I'll be able to give you more of a prediction after spring football. That is when we will see more kids enter the transfer portal, if that may happen, or us also acquire kids in the transfer portal as well. And also teams will be doing the same thing. So I'll be able to give you a bit more of a predictable record, a more realistic record once the rosters are set for this upcoming season. So before, I predict, I just want to go over the schedule a little bit. And then after the spring football game, I will predict what I think the actual schedule will be. I will say this though, on paper, I do think we have a lot of winnable games this year. It's a very pivotal year for Mario Cristobal and the rest of his coaching staff as we were entering into year 3. And there's going to have to be some drastic improvement. I will say you're going to need the Norvell lift, in which Mike Norvell in his third season won 10 games for the Florida State Seminoles. I do think the Miami Hurricanes need to do the same exact thing to make sure that we can see that Mario Cristobal's progress and trust the process is starting to work, especially with the talent that we acquired both in recruiting and also in the transfer portal. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go over the schedule with you guys. We're going to go a little bit piece by piece with it, okay, as far as it is concerned. And the schedule in which I'm looking at is available on X. You just got to follow Miami Hurricanes football, and you'll be able to see exactly whom the Canes are playing and when. The one interesting aspect about this season is, well, two interesting aspects is number one is the travel to Cal. We'll get into that in a minute, but also the fact that the Canes do have two bye weeks this upcoming 2024 season. So that is very, very good. It could be good and bad. The Miami Hurricanes don't do necessarily very well in bye weeks. Let's hopefully that's going to be a major change this year, especially with the roster, the way it's been overhauled with recruiting and also with transfer portal acquisitions, especially at the quarterback position. But we'll see exactly how this team ends up this season. But I want to go over just the game. First things foremost, what a way to start! What a way to start as the Miami Hurricanes will travel to the Swamp on August 31st and take on the much hated Florida Gators. The Florida Gators have, if I'm not mistaken, the toughest schedule this season in any team in college football. It's going to be a good test for the Canes to open up against an SEC opponent, a quality opponent, not a quote-unquote cupcake. And it's also going to be also good for the Gators as they'll be taking on an arch rival over in the Swamp at home. A nice way for them to start. So we'll see. This is gonna be the debut game of none other than Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Right, Cam Ward will be making his Hurricanes debut at the Swamp. What a way to start the season! Then you go into September 7th, and then you take on FAMU, and of course September 14th you take on Ball State. Okay, so those are, I will say, two winnable games. All right, as well. September 21st, you take on USF. USF is going to be much improved this season. USF will be on September 21st. And then you're going to take on, which, by the way, it's a road game. We'll be playing over there, over in South Florida. And then, of course, same thing with the Gators. And September 7th and September 14th, all right, you're going to be at home against Ball State. Then you take on the Friday Night Lights game, September 27th, against the Virginia Tech Hokies. The ACC has decided they're going to continue to renew that rivalry between the Miami Hurricanes and the Virginia Tech Hokies. Okay, so the Hokies will travel to the Rock and take on the Miami Hurricanes. Now, this is a game that I'm a little worried about, and this is the Cal game. Although University of California over in Berkeley is not the most talented football team, if you listen to Locked On Canes with Alex Don, who's a friend of the show, he did say they have a very talented running back. I do believe this is a trap game. And there's always that one game this season that Mario and the rest of the football team do have a tendency of losing. I really hope it isn't this game, but it is a trap game because the Canes will be traveling over to the West Coast, all right, which is kind of a pain in the butt in terms of travel with jet lag and so on. Now, Cal will be doing the same as Cal has entered the ACC, and for the life of me, I cannot understand why in the world they will let in Cal, all right, and Stanford as well. So it is just ridiculous, in my opinion, that Cal is in the ACC being a West Coast team. But nonetheless, we got to deal with it, okay? Then October 19th is a tough stretch because you take on Louisville, all right? Louisville, you're traveling over there, okay? And you're going to want some revenge after what happened this past season over at The Rock. Then you're home against Florida State, right? You play Florida State at home. How Florida State's going to look this year, I'm not sure. They're going to have a lot of roster turnover. One of the criticisms of Mike Norvell is the fact that it's like basically a guns for hire type of deal in which he keeps acquiring guys from the transfer portal, so we'll see exactly what happens, but it's going to be a great game as we'll see exactly how DJU takes on does for the Noles, and also up against, Cam Ward as well. Then the Canes are going to be home again November 2nd against Duke, and they take on the Duke Blue Devils, a team, we're very familiar with their head coach as Manny Diaz returns to Hard Rock. Now on the other side, as a member of the Duke Blue Devils, very well as a head coach, very well Coach Diaz is going to want to get his revenge against the University of Miami for being fired a couple of years ago for Mario Cristobal. He comes in with respected former Texas quarterback Malik Murphy. We'll see how they do. And his OC is from the coaching tree of Rhett Lashley. So that's going to be very interesting to see how Duke plays this season with Coach Diaz, the aggressive defense, and also the aggressive offense that I do expect from Duke this season. Then the Canes have to travel to Georgia Tech, right? They have to travel to Georgia Tech as well, okay? By the way, the bye week is going to be October 12th, right? So it's after the Cal game, the Canes have a bye week. Then they rest up and they take on Louisville. The Canes do not have a good track record with bye week, so we'll see what happens there. Okay, and now let's go back to Georgia Tech. The infamous knee game, all right? I'm sure the Canes are going to want to go out there and pound Georgia Tech because of what happened this past season, which, again, it was a coaching blunder. Coach Mario can only blame himself for that one, for deciding to do such a thing. Then they have a bye week. Okay, they have a bye week. Then they take on Wake Forest at home, right? They take on Wake Forest. We see how Wake Forest is as well. Then they conclude their season on the road. Again, on the road. They finished on the road this year at Boston College. Now they're going to go on the road again to take on Syracuse as well. So there you have it, folks. That is the schedule. Again, I will be giving you much more of a prediction as far as the season goes when the spring game is done. That is when we'll get much more of an idea how the rosters are going to look for this upcoming season for all their opponents, as well as there should be some guys coming in and coming out. As far as the transfer portal goes, I do expect the Miami Hurricanes to add another receiver to the roster when the transfer portal once again reopens after spring ball. All right, just to give you guys a bit of an idea of what I'm thinking about here. So again, I do think there is a lot of winnable games here. It's regardless, it needs to be a 10-win season for the Canes, and of course the bowl victory as well. Very important, especially since you have, tweaked your roster to make a very competitive team, not just with transfer portal guys, but also with incoming recruits. I know that's a lot to ask, for your freshmen, but a lot of the kids that were freshmen last year are now going to be sophomores. They're going to have 1 year under the belt under Guidry's defense and Shannon Dawson's offense. I do expect some tweaks into Shannon Dawson's offense, since now you have a true dual threat quarterback in Cam Ward, right, as well. So I do think that's going to be very, very instrumental, and it's going to benefit the Canes, as when Shannon Dawson has had dual threat quarterbacks, Clayton Tune over in Houston and Geno Smith over in West Virginia. He's been very successful, okay, especially with Clayton Tune. Clayton Tune put up 40 touchdowns, right, as well, okay? So I'm expecting both sides of the ball to be much better. Guidry's defense was solid this year. I expect them to be better since their second year in the scheme, and I do expect Shannon Dawson's offense to be better since they're also second year in the scheme with a few dynamics added to it. Right, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 205 Sports Now. Once again, I am Will. Stay safe. God bless you soon. Go Canes. All about the U. Bye-bye, guys.